Hi folks, you're with Tassus today at your Pushback Show, and thank you for joining this live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the race grifting, how incidents of or alleged incidents of racism, bad whitey, victim black, is perpetrated. Now, it's very much a central part of the globalist play. So it's straight out of the globalist playbook, and they're doing this all across the Western world. And even the slightest chance to create race division is seized upon and vigorously pushed. And it's a way to have people squabbling amongst themselves, which is what the globalists want, and what they certainly put generous amounts of money and resources towards, creating these social racial divisions. And it happens in Australia as well. And I'll mention an incident that happened a while ago. I'm going to change a couple of the details because I think some of it may still be working its way through the courts. So I won't mention names, and as I say, change a couple of the details, but the gist of it will hold true. Now, there was a very left-leaning TV station, but it's quite a large one, and they approached a state government to do a report on Aborigines who are in the prison system, and the government had made quite a few reforms that they seemed quite proud of to try and keep particularly younger offenders out of prison and get them into sort of various job occupations, like maybe learning a trade or something like that. And so they agreed to full cooperation. Now the news station in return said they wouldn't ideologically load it up. They would it would be the facts only, and they would be very sympathetic to all sides and so on. Now, given the track record of this particular TV network or media network, I think the government representative was pretty dumb and naive to agree to it. But anyway, that's they were, at least they were open and gave the reporters and the researchers sort of access to everything they wanted. So they were quite open about it and very cooperative. And so they had every reason to expect there'd be at least a balanced coverage, maybe warts and all, but balanced nonetheless. Anyway, you couldn't have got something less balanced if you tried. They decided to go ideological, full bore ideological. So everything Whitey did was bad, and every Aboriginal person was a victim who was being wickedly and evilly oppressed by those wicked, evil white people. And that's the ideology, that's the direction they went in, and the facts be damned. So there were things like there was one prisoner had a mask on because this prisoner had a clear and long history of trying to bite people, including the prison warders. So had a mask on. But that was reported. I mean, the sensationalism of the TV or the media coverage was, and then we saw this, and it beggared belief. And then dramatic music comes in, and that sort of, and there's the camera goes around this guy with the mask on, as if he's done nothing. And just because Whitey is so fucking evil, they just decided to put a mask on this guy for no reason. But the reality, of course, is quite different. But that was never reported. They didn't say that the guy was doing those things. He just somehow magically had a mask put on him because of oppression and bad whitey. And the whole thing really went on like that. And there was and they would cut scenes in. The editing was outrageous in how it misrepresented it. The government officer offered the reporter a lift back to the hotel because that's where he was going. And then they cut in another thing where the reporter, a younger female, goes, "No thanks." And she's tough. She's a tough chick, standing up to the evil oppression of those white males, misogynist, Nazi, fascist. That's what they are. And she's a tough chick, pushing back against this. Of course, that wasn't the case. The guy was offering a lift, and then they cut in another sort of scene from some other thing to make it look like she was just repudiating his evil. But and the rest of the thing went on like that. There was no attempt at balance, and they were obviously pushing the ideological thing and were purposefully and willfully ignoring the balancing facts that some of these guys were career criminals and violent crime, but that was always left out. They'd make out like, once he stole a car and had a bit of a joyride. Yeah, but who cares? That's no big deal. So what? Sounded like the district attorney in the Rittenhouse case. So he set fire to things. So he overturned things. So he did this. So he did. But hey, who cares? He's a good guy. And here are these career criminals. Now, some of them were at best a quarter black. But they were treated as if they were full blood. There were people there who'd certainly come from unfortunate circumstances. They'd been abandoned by their parents, and they were sort of in foster care, and they went to numerous foster care places. They had run-ins with the legal system at a young age, and so they were, at 13 they were getting arrested, and now they're 25, 30 years old, and they're still getting arrested. Some of these people, and they would sort of explain, the media piece, so and so is 35 and has already spent 17 years or 18 years in prison. Isn't that terrible? Well, yes, it is. I mean, who would wish that on anybody? Who would want that on anybody? But the 18 years was for committing crimes that people go to prison for. So no, and if they talked about the crimes that the guy had committed, then that would have been balanced. But instead, they just say he's been in prison for 18 years. Isn't that terrible? But hey, let's talk about the crimes. Or if they do say that so-and-so was in prison for 20 years, they'll mention the very first crime that the guy committed when he was 13. And all he did was steal a bunch of chocolate bars, for example, something like that, the very first crime that he committed, and make out that that's why he's still in prison 20 years later. No, he's committed a whole range of crimes since then. Including assault and battery and robbery and car stealing and stabbing people, and so on. So folks go to prison for those crimes. So the point being that they missed was, well, all right then. So people commit crimes, and these are crimes that you would agree. If a white guy does those crimes, you'd say, well, he should be in prison, but when it's a black person, you say, well, really they shouldn't be. It's not as bad when they do it, and if they stab and kill each other, then that's not so bad, is it? And we saw this with, say, Lori Lightfoot in Chicago and Kim Fox. So with a bunch of black, I think it was drug gangs or something like that, shooting each other, and I think somebody died. A couple of people died. Well, that doesn't matter. It's just two gangs shooting each other. At least they've got equality. They're both black and they're both carrying guns. So hey, who cares? They both got equal social power. The caliber of the guns was the same. So we're not going to arrest anybody. That's all right. So the way that the whole media piece was ideological. We've got black victims, we've got white oppressors, and look at it. Look how terrible it is. But it was all done through the editing and made up, removal of context. Isn't it terrible? He's in prison for 20 years. Yeah, because he committed crimes, for goodness sakes. Why else would he be there? But the impression they gave, the narrative was that these black guys are in prison for no reason other than racism. That is the only reason they're there. And this has to stop. But it's not why they're there, far from it. So now there are various outreach sort of programs that the government have put in place to say, well, if somebody is prepared to learn a trade, then they can be let out of prison to attend a school or college or something like that. But then a lot of these people run away and don't come back. And just looking at some of the courts around the country that handle these sort of cases, they have to have a number of police on standby, because as soon as the black person's about to be, or realizes that they're going to go to prison, they try and run out of the court. So they have to have special contingent of officers there to catch them. So these are the sort of wider issues, but this isn't what the media piece handled. They presented it purely as white racism and nothing else. But it just illustrated to me how determined the globalist media is to create as much of a chasm in the race relations as they possibly can, including the propaganda about Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, there are still people around who say he went into a black neighbourhood and just randomly shot black people. How can such racism be? Well, hold on a minute, it was nothing like that. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. No, really, look at the facts. I know the facts. I don't care. And so people have this now burnt on, sort of grafted on, welded on attitude that's what happened. And these are the sort of ideological flunkies that they send in to do these media pieces, that no matter what facts are presented to them, no matter how clear it is, they will always go to the same part. Evil white person, victim black person. Now, as a result of that media piece, there was an inquiry, and it became a transcended farce. All the people that sort of were running the inquiry were black activists who were all of the same view, that there was evil whitey and poor black guy. So they had this inquiry, and one of the guy with the guy that had the mask on was invited to make some speech, and he said, whitey's bad, oppression, and then they were bussing in black audiences to sit in the, it's like sort of like a courtroom type thing, and it wasn't a court, but the sort of like they just bust in black audience, sit there, so that this guy says, Whitey's an asshole and Whitey's bad, and the whole place erupts in applause. And they bust in these black people to do it with black activists running it. I mean, it was an absolute fucking charade. But that's the sort of craziness, and that's the sort of thing that I believe we have to push back against. If there is wrongdoing, people are being wrongly accused or wrongly jailed or wrongly punished, then it should be dealt with, and people who've done that should be held accountable. No question. On the other side of it, if a black person has committed these crimes and they're a repeat offender, career criminal, going back into prison, then that's kind of how the law works. If you break the law and commit those, run around stabbing people, then you end up in prison. That is how it goes. So do we need to change that? And why should people that commit crimes be victims because they're black? I don't understand that, nor will it lead us to a good place. So that's my take on that. And you've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.